Lord, grant me the serenity to understand the things I cannot change. Grant me the courage to change the things that I can. And grant me the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today. Amen. Away from me.
Why ain't playing with y'all, boy? Y'all boys trying to tell me to do something.
You close to the edge, just don't move. My brother said his lawyer just gave him some bad news. Police found the drugs that were stashed in the bathroom. Not only that, but his court date approaching us fast too. So tell me what to do. Lord, you only seek the truth. If you want to bear fruit, then he needs to abide in you. If you seek transformation, it happens in solitude. Since I never had a shot, God threw me the alley-oop. I believe I can fly. Let me mingle with the angels. Heaven's in my peripheral, I see it from an angle.
What's up, good people? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your boy, Bro Troy.
Bro Smith.
And Bro Kirk.
And we are the Bro Code. Tonight's show is sponsored by the North Carolina Center of Dermatology. Provides medical dermatological services to residents in North Carolina, especially in Durham, Bull City stand up, and all surrounding areas in the Triangle. If you are looking for cosmetic dermatological services, don't trust just any provider. Dr. Jeffery Scales and the team have the expertise to provide cosmetic dermatological services. Whew, that was a mouthful, fella.
You said dermatological a couple different ways.
Did I say it a couple times? But you get the gist of it,
I got
right?
what you meant.
Hey, look, if you're watching right now, please like and share this post. Not now, fellas, but when?
Right
now. Whew. Make sure to always follow us and help grow our platform by going to our YouTube page, Spotify platform, and Apple Podcast platform. Now, fellas, we always ask an icebreaker depending on the show. And, here we are. We're in dermatologist's office, right? Yeah, so you got some lotion there, got a couple samples. But I'm wondering, what has been one of your worst skincare moments? Like one of those blemishes in the morning? Like what is one of those things that you remember like, wow, that one took a while to live down?
Yeah. Well, for me, man, freshman year of high school, I'm feeling myself a little. I'm on the basketball team, it's JV at the time, and 2 days before the game, I start developing a rash on my face.
Uh-oh.
I wound up essentially having ringworm on my face in high school as a freshman, where I don't really know too many people. You go to high school and you kind of separate a little bit from your 8th grade friends. And but I was like, man, I want to play. Yeah. Like I can't let this. So I had already invited a bunch of people to come and see me at this game, and I was like, well, I can't disinvite you now. I wound up going to this game with a patch.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got to.
On my face.
Yes, sir.
People in the class say, hey, what's that? So
right.
I was like, because they saw it really before I really noticed it. I knew my face was itching, but I didn't know it was going to develop into something worse than that. And Coach Cindy put me in the game, which
he got coached, not the coach's decision.
Part of that I was happy for because I'm sitting on the bench really with the patch, like, oh man, this ain't gonna look good. This is not gonna look good. So that was my welcome to high school moment.
Yeah.
Freshman year as shout out to Immaculate Conception. But it was a rough go of it. It took me at least a month to recover from that moment.
That's a good one. That's a good one, man. I can only imagine, man. I can only imagine. How about you, Bro Kirk?
Before I jump into my answer, Troy, I got to give you kudos.
Right.
Because you said that word like 3 times. I'm not even trying. I'm going to say skin.
Hey, look,
right? But you said it. Like, I want to check it out.
You know what? I'm going to go at it like a champ.
Yeah, you did.
You didn't want to say the word.
No, I would say skin. Skin. Y'all know what I mean. Mine would be, man, I had a big meeting for work, and all of the brass, all the corporate people were coming. And that morning I was shaving, and I had an ingrown hair, and so I cut myself real bad. And when I cut myself, sometimes you cut yourself so bad it wouldn't stop bleeding.
Yeah.
So I'm in the meeting talking, and it's not a big deal, but it was. I don't know why, because I was trying to make my presence felt.
Right.
Here I am with this big Band-Aid with blood just coming off, and I can't stop it once it's bleeding. So that's definitely mine, man.
Wow, you gotta put some chalk on that.
Yeah,
but keep some powder with you or something.
Hey,
What's going on there? Well, there was a time that as a kid, mine is a kid story too, man. I thought I was Karate Kid. at 12 Surrey Lane. That's the house my grandparents grew up in Sayreville, New Jersey. There was a balloon with a little bell on it. The bell was on the bottom so it wouldn't fly away, right? So I'm on the front porch, cement pavement, thinking I'm gonna do a roundhouse kick. And I did the kick, but I landed on the bell and my feet came from underneath me. Well, I landed on my face. And anyway, I landed up with a big blemish. I put a hole in the top of my lip. And similar to yours, I had to walk around with a bandage, outside of crying and being embarrassed and all kind of other stuff. And then being yelled at too. I'd have hurt myself, but you yelling at me because I'd have hurt myself as a kid. So, there's a little hurt and some shame and embarrassment.
You already got the punishment or the cut,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Leave me alone.
So I'm scarred for life now, right? So, yeah, similar, not the same. At least I wasn't at school in front of, a whole bunch of friends. But I did have to walk around with a bandage on my face and kind of explain that. You can only wonder how many times people ask, what happened? Oh, yeah. What happened? What happened? So, yeah, that.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, outside of pimples and plenty of them as a kid, man, I'd probably say that was probably one of my worst.
Yeah, mine could have been worse. I can only imagine what people were saying behind my back during those days.
They're talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we mature, we grow. Praise God for maturity.
Glad there wasn't social media.
Oh, man. Who you telling? Well, no great things happen alone. Tonight's no different. We are right here in the doctor's office. I believe he's here. Is it Dr. Jeffery Scales?
It is.
Dr. Scales, are you here? You in the building? Yeah. Come on through, man. Where you at?
Great name for a dermatologist.
Dr. Scales.
See you.
Pleasure.
What's up, fellas?
Welcome to the Bro Code Show, sir. Here we are. Well, first, I would love to hear, where are we? Tell us more about where did we just sit down?
You are sitting at 6226 Fayetteville Road here in Durham, North Carolina, and right near South Point Mall. And you're in my office, and this is our main office. We do most of our work right here.
Okay. And you've been in practice now how long?
I've been in practice now 25 years.
Okay. So for our listeners, those who are viewing, we always ask a question. We say, run your resume in 90 seconds or less. Let's see what you got, Doc.
All right, here we go. So I was born and raised in I was born in North Carolina, Fayetteville, raised in the Washington, D.C. area. Graduated from high school in Bethesda, Maryland, went to Morehouse College afterwards. Morehouse, that's my place. Then I ended up going to the University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League school. It was quite a change going from Atlanta to Philadelphia to the Ivy League. That was a change. Then I trained in pediatrics at the University of Chicago. Spent some time there for a while. Then I came here and I trained in dermatology at Baptist Hospital in Wake Forest Medical School, and then I opened up my practice here after I was done. So I've been here 25 years now in Durham, North Carolina.
Awesome. Well, I'm wondering, sir, so you've been dealing with skin and been in, dermatology for over 2 decades now.
Yes,
right?
sir.
If you weren't doing this, right, is there a secret passion? Is there something else you would be doing? And what is that?
Yes, that's a great question, because I think I would have been an architect. Or, that's a visual thing, something very visual. You can see the building, you can put it together. As crazy as it sounds, I think I'd like to be a supply chain person too. People that make sure stuff gets going, the logistics, all that. I think I could have done that as well. In my mind, as a younger person, I would have been an NBA basketball player. There's nothing about me that ever said that I was ever going to be an NBA basketball player, other than the fact I like to play basketball. So, that would have been in a perfect world. But I ended up getting into dermatology. I'm very happy. I'm here. It was the right choice for me. I had practiced pediatrics for a while, but I'm very visually focused. That's my strongest sense. And so this turned out to be the best choice for me if I'm going to practice medicine.
I'm curious, you said architecture. Is there like a building or a place that you visited that you said, that's awesome, that piece of structure just kind of hit home for me?
That's a great question. If you've ever seen there's a man named Frank Gehry, and he has a building out in LA that's he has a couple, but the one I'm thinking about, I think it's the Performing Arts Center they have in LA. It's a beautiful building, absolutely stunning. And so I've seen it, never seen it in person. I'm going to go out and hang with my friend who lives in LA, and I'm going to go and see some experience. But Frank Gehry's buildings have just been really impressive, I think.
Okay, I love it. So if you could be any tool in the doctor's office, what would it be and why?
Let's see, I'd probably be the stethoscope because you get close and personal with people. You can hear what's going on. It's a window into a person in a way that they don't understand. Part of what you do with medicine is you're trying to look inside. You're trying to think about what is it that's happening inside people's bodies. And one of the things about dermatology I like is you can see most of the problems. You know, you don't have to say, what does the heart look like? Is it messing up or not? I can just look at what it is and I can think about it. But if I had to be an instrument, it would be, definitely the stethoscope.
I love it. And I got to ask, before I ask the question, I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction here. You watch TV or movies? Are you into any type of TV or movies? And the reason I ask that question, if you could be any fictional doctor, like, you know, they've got Hawthorne and all kind of stuff, man. They got Dr. Doolittle, blah, 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 right? And you don't have to stop here. Like, we could go Dr. Seuss and all, but if you could be any fictional doctor, who would it be and why?
Yeah, so I have to admit, I'm somewhat of a nerd. So if I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be Dr. Strange.
My man.
Okay? Gotta go. They got this
My man.
So yeah, I would be Dr. Strange because then I could do all that cool stuff. I watched some of the other stuff on TV when I was growing up. I used to like, you know, prior to all this stuff that happened, you know, there was Cliff Huxtable. You know, he was kind of like, you know, regardless of
That's
man,
right. We talked about that too.
That was very important. I think that was very important for Black people in general, talking about things. You start to normalize some things for people. I'm older than you gentlemen, but that was a big deal. That was must-see TV. And so you would watch that because what it did was show you that there were other avenues to people. And this was very normal. They were normal people and just happened to do something different. You don't see a lot of that on TV. So if I'm going to choose if I can't be Dr. Strange, I'm going to be not Bill Cosby, I'm going to be Cliff Huxtable.
Yeah,
all right.
Indeed. Let's clarify that.
Yeah.
Well, great. I appreciate it, Doc. Let's chew the meat and spit out the bone. What you got, bro Smith?
Well, you've had quite a history in medicine. I want to get to know the person beneath the lab coat, though. And what were you like as a child? What were some of your influences? And what ultimately led you to want to pursue a career in this field?
Sure, it's a great question. My mother was a nurse, and she worked at Howard University. And so as a child, I was raised in public schools, D.C. We eventually ended up moving to the suburbs. But D.C. was one of those cities that you had a lot of great things going on with Black people. I joke around and say the 70s and being a Black person in Washington, D.C., all things were possible. You had a Black mayor, you had everything happening. And so I had an opportunity to get exposed to a lot of Black people who were very successful in their careers. And I admired the doctors and I admired their focus and all this. And one of my best friends' father was the first Black pediatric surgeon in the world. And so we'd hang out together. In fact, he's still like a brother to me. And his father was he was a very strong man. He didn't say a whole lot, but he was very smart. And I admired him greatly. And we'd go hang out. He'd drive us around in his Porsche and we'd hang out. It was just a lot of fun. And so I got the importance of education. I had a grandmother who only got as far as the 7th grade education. And one of the things she used to always speak to me and talk to me about was the importance of education. She was embarrassed that she could not have ever gotten any further than that. She was raised a sharecropper down in Lancaster, South Carolina, and had to leave, a single mother at 18, and had to come up and work and start doing all these kinds of things. And she used to always talk about the importance of how I spoke. You know, people are like, oh, you don't speak like a Black person. Well, you know, I was taught that there's a time to speak the King's English, and it's time we can hang out and talk about other things. And like, yo, what's happening? So, but if I came in and said, I ain't this or whatever, with her 7th grade education, she was going to correct me and say, no, you are going to speak like this. And so the importance of education was stressed to me quite a bit when I was growing up. My mother was very important. My father was also very important. He was a strong Black man. I saw him work. He worked 2 jobs. He worked for the government, and he used to do some accounting on the side. So I walked away with the impression that, 1, you worked hard. Number 2, you took advantage of all the opportunities you had. We knew that my parents would sit me down in front of the TV during the Civil Rights Movement. We would watch this stuff live, you know, the black and white stuff, and we would just cry as kids. And they were like, you need to know what your country is like. You need to hear this. And then when your opportunities come, you make sure you take advantage of all that's before you. So I went off to Morehouse College, which was one of the best experiences of my life. Really strong men, great influence. It affected me a great deal. And it gave me this confidence. It gave me the ability to go off and try and do something else. I went off to the Ivy League afterwards and spent time at the University of Pennsylvania, and you know that was truly a culture shock. That's really different. But I again, pushed forward, succeeded, got out of there, trained in a couple other specialties, 2 specialties. I'm trained in 2 specialties. And so the things that have always been important to me was the importance of black people taking care of their own destiny, ownership of things, charting our own course, taking our opportunities as best they can, and doing the most with them. My father used to say, a white man makes $1 and a black man makes 85 cents. Just make sure you make your 85 cents. So when the doors open, you step in, you do the stuff you need to do, and you push forward. So I had great influences come in. I mean, just, tremendous people. So I think about them all the time,
I think it's very important that people see that there are black individuals in medicine. Unfortunately, there are not a ton of us, about 3 to 4% in medicine overall, and I'm not even quite sure how many are in the dermatology field. But you've provided culturally sensitive, what's a good word? I'm thinking, not repair, but services. That's the best word I could think of, to a diverse clientele, but you specialize in black skin. Dr. Clearskin is your AKA. Tell us a little bit more about how do you service the clientele that, may not necessarily think about their skin. I've never gone to a dermatologist, to be quite honest with you, and I've never really thought about that as part of a annual routine. How do you best service individuals like me and or others that deal with more unique challenges than our counterparts?
I think you hit on a couple really important things. One of the things you mentioned was how few of us of color are in medicine in general. And dermatology is probably one of the least likely for us to be in. And one of the things I want to do, as you said, was to make sure that, I said to you guys before we started that, the democratization of medicine. What do I mean by that? I mean that everyone should feel comfortable coming into a setting when they have a healthcare need. And you'll find that I have people that drive literally from other states. I have people that come from Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, other places to seek out a place where you walk in and they have no doubt about your intentions of trying to help them. Some of us are very nervous about that. We've had a history in medicine of things being not quite what we expected them to be or what they should have been. And so what we try to do here is our doors open to everyone. We have probably one of the most diverse patient bases of any practice you go anywhere, and certainly in dermatology. You go to our office and you go to office down the street, it's going to be a little bit different. So we try to provide a place where everybody is welcome. You are right, there are some things that we don't think about that much. No doctor, no medicine, field of medicine is visited less by people of color than dermatology. There's some reasons for that. Part of it used to be when I was coming up, dermatology was seen like something for the upper crust. It was the wealthy. Braces and dermatology, that's what the rich kids had, right? And so we never thought about it like that, but we have as many problems as anyone else. Eczema, for instance, itchy skin. People growing up with a lot of problems with scratching, not being able to sleep. That's a big deal in our community. But we didn't always realize that there were opportunities to go places and options that would help us with that. Shaving issues, what black men deal with, definitely an issue. African American women and hair issues. With all that's happened recently with Will Smith and all that, I will tell you that is a big deal. And I spend, I'd say, at least 5 to 10 patients a day while I'm here dealing with issues with black women and their hair. It's kind of the area that a lot of other doctors don't necessarily want to step out and deal with that. And you can almost understand there's a big emotional issue. Growing up, I remember one of the things you did not talk about was some black lady's hair or somebody's hair. So, because obviously we saw what happens when you hit the wrong nerve. It sends a lot of people off. But yes, these things are available, and part of what we're trying to do is make sure that some of these things that have been neglected over the years are things that we help people with, and there are options for them.
We got to come right back. Yeah, we got to pay bills. So we're going to come right back to Bro Smith.
Sure.
We're here with Dr. Jeffery Scales on the Bro Code Show. We'll be right back. We always say that hope plus options equals success. When there's a lack of hope, oftentimes gravitate towards unfavorable decisions. But we can provide hopeless options, our children will ultimately be better. Through love, consistency, opportunity, and exposure, that's how we really touch these kids. That's how we empower them, that's how we inspire them, and that's how we encourage them. And that's what we do well here at Y4C.
Such a sweet delight. I will cherish the memory of this night. This night, feelings so deep in the feelings. Noticing you really like me. Can't control my anxiety. Feeling like I'm touching the ceiling. When I'm with you, I can't breathe. Boy, you do something to me.
Welcome back to the Bro Code Show. We're here with Dr. Jeffery Scales, aka Dr. Clearskin. You brought up a couple of conditions, whether it be eczema, itchy skin, shaving issues. But before we get too far, what exactly is dermatology? What all does that cover? I was thinking just skin. I think I saw nails. Hair is also covered in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
What else is there?
We think of dermatology as being the window to other things. So for instance, there are people who can have internal issues that show up on the skin. You remember I had a lady come see me one time and she had a spot on her skin and it just looked innocent and I biopsied it, which means take a piece and send it off to the lab. And then it came back later, she had breast cancer. That happened to be the first place that she showed it there, but she was able to go and get care quickly after that because it was determined she had that. You have people who have all sorts of other types of cancers that show up. You have people who have immune system problems. So yes, we look specifically at the skin, but you also have to be able to do other things. When I am talking to a patient, I may talk about their skin, but I talk about their medications, I talk about their other issues. Reactions to medications are an issue, other things. And I have to be able to know things about their general medical health that helps me to explain some of the things I see. So yes, it is specifically skin, hair, nails, all those issues, but it's a bit more than that.
Now, there are a few things that we hear in our community, whether or not they're myths or the truth. I'm going to throw a few out. Black folks can't get sunburn. Black don't crack. What are your opinions on some of these stereotypes here?
Sure. So yes, black people can be burned. I remember the first time I went to the Caribbean when I was training. We went down to, my wife and I. We'd only been married a couple years, so we're going on a hang out. And I remember putting some sunscreen on. I said, "Oh, forget the sunscreen. I don't really need to put this on." 2 days into the trip, the week, I am on fire. I can barely walk because I have burned myself up. Anybody's skin will burn. Anybody's skin will burn. And the issue becomes that we have not discussed these types of things in our community very much. Mainly because it just hasn't been something directed towards us. As I had mentioned to you prior, black people get skin cancer too. And I have seen more than my share of people pass away from issues related to skin cancer that are people of color. And many, if you look at the statistics, by the time a black person presents with, and when I say black, I mean people of color, so it can be Hispanic, it can be Indian, anyone. By the time they present, generally the cancer is more advanced. And part of it is because you don't think about it. And the second issue is that people aren't checking for it as regularly. So for instance, if I talked about melanoma, which is the most serious type of skin cancer, in black people, the most common place to find it is the sole of their foot. So I have met, unfortunately, more than I want to know. We've lost a number of patients to cancer that appeared on the sole of the foot. But if you were to go and look at a person that's lighter in skin, you say, where is their melanoma going to present? It's not, it will occur there, but it's going to occur more commonly, say, on the chest, the back, the trunk, other places. It even occurs in places that don't even have much sun exposure. But I say all that to say that these are things you have to know to sort of make sure that you're addressing that properly. So, yes, that's an important thing. But and then you talk about black doesn't crack. Sure, we don't get a lot of sunspots and wrinkles and all these sorts of things. It is possible that you will find, you can tell that we age but we age differently. So for instance, for a lot of people of color, you age differently. The eyes become a little different. You get, a few more bags under here. Your face starts to draw down a bit. Those are things that how we generally age, as opposed to a lot of those sunspots that you see and some of these other things. So yes, it doesn't correct, but it still ages, but it ages differently.
I would bet that you wouldn't be able to guess our ages.
Oh my gosh, you put me on the spot.
Here we
Okay,
go.
I think all of you are 25. Each one of you is
No.
Great answer.
Y'all heard that. Y'all heard him.
Okay, that's your answer. I'm gonna let you walk on that. I'm gonna let you walk on
That's good. So you didn't mention one thing I wanted to ask off his questions was the food and water. Do those play any game into our skin at all? How does that?
Sure, so I'll talk about food a bit. The studies about food are not as good as you might want them to be. But here's the issue. Foods provide all sorts of nutrients that we need, but also things that can be helpful. So for instance, if I go walk out in the sun and the sun hits my skin, the skin immediately becomes damaged with the DNA, and there are things created called free radicals. Free radicals are like bull in a china shop. They're going through and just breaking anything up you can. But the purpose of many of the things that you get in food is to calm down some of those free radicals. When that bull is in the china shop, it calms it down and gets it under control. So eating healthy foods, eating things that are natural, eating the kinds of things that can help your body in general will help your skin along the way too. We could talk about more specific things, nuts and green vegetables and all that sort of thing. So yes, food is important. Water, of course, hydrate appropriately. There's this myth that you're supposed to drink a certain amount of water per day. If I have a 12-year-old child, they're about this big, and I've got someone that's my age, 60. I'm much bigger than a 12-year-old child might be. I don't have to drink. I drink more water than the child might. Really, the reason you have thirst is to determine, to let you know when you need to drink. Just like hunger. Your body is speaking to you in a certain way. So this idea that you're supposed to guzzle 4 or 5 gallons of water a day, that's definitely not the case. More people die in the United States of water intoxication than die from being under. In fact, in marathon races, if you ever look at this statistic, more people die from drinking too much water than from not drinking enough water during marathons. So, they have water. I run half marathons, and they're giving you water every half mile, and you're like, you drink some, but you don't stop all the time. One, it's going to kill your time if you're stopping all the time. And then the other thing is, it's just not necessary. If you're thirsty, drink. But if you're not, then drink when you need to.
So earlier you mentioned exposure through growing up in D.C., then being put in the ecosystem of Morehouse. Then you mentioned that you went to the University of Penn, and it was culture shock. What did you take away? Because you obviously were adaptable in that situation, but what was one thing that maybe you took away that has helped you long term from going into that space?
That's a great question. I think that one of the things I learned was how to manage situations that may not be in my best interest. So I can name several examples of being in settings where we're dealing with patients, or maybe we're talking as a group, and there are some things that are being directed my way, some comments and some things that have been directed my way that are not necessarily helpful. I'll give you a perfect example. One time I was with a group of doctors, and I'm a medical student, the rest of them are in training, and one of them's getting ready to finish. So he asked me to read an x-ray. So I read the x-ray. I had just left radiology the month before. I read the x-ray the way I was trained to read. The guy jumps up in front of me and says, "Oh, this is completely wrong. This is why people get sued. Oh, this and that and this and that." And now the whole team just like, "Oh, this is pretty funny." So I took the x-ray, I looked at it, and I realized this person was a cancer patient, but they had finished their treatment. They had no more cancer anymore. So I took the x-ray down. I said, "This is post-radiation. This person has no thing." And so the guy goes up and looks at it, and he says, "Yeah, we don't really see. Well, maybe it's this and that," and tried to make an excuse about him messing up. Then later on, he pulls me aside and tries to embarrass me. He yells at me, "What are you doing, trying to embarrass me in front of all these people and this and that?" And I'm thinking, you embarrassed yourself.
You started it.
Yeah, you were the one that. But these are not things I think a lot of people necessarily experience. That people are trying to make learning harder for you. But I know I've had a couple of people say, who are your role models when you're going through medicine? Well, one, I had the one guy who was younger, but when I'm off in training and things like that, basically for a lot of us who were some of the earlier people, you had to be your own role model. You had to create for yourself the things that you want it to have. There'd be some good days and be some bad days, but I learned some strength there that got me ready for some things, so that when it was time to handle some business and talk about some important things, I was not afraid, and I could speak intelligently, and I could manage those things. So I walked away with a great deal of strength after that, and I was ready for my next phase of training and dealing with some issues in the world.
Yeah, I love that. The word manage is very, very important in our lives. So I know what you're talking about. So let's talk about you're independently set up in your own practice. I mean, you're 20 years in, you're solid. And then all of a sudden we get this visitor called COVID. We'd love to hear how that impacted your business.
Very good question, because it's affected medicine in general. So what you saw happen was that most people were afraid to go to the doctor. They started to think that coming to the doctor was going to expose them to more people with COVID than what they might normally do. We had a big drop in the numbers of people that were there, but we also had a number of people who are on medications and have issues that required management. So there were people who stopped for 2 or 3 weeks and they didn't see anybody. We kept seeing patients. And so you had people who were stopped coming as much. The ones that came were often very afraid. And you realized that it was going to take a lot of adjustment in the office. So for instance, we clean a different way. We space patients out a different way. We require people to wear masks all the time they're in here. We do all sorts of things in a way that was slightly different than what we did prior to COVID. And what we try to do is make sure the patients feel comfortable coming in to talk about those sorts of things. But it was a big shock for a lot of people. It was running an independent practice, just strictly from a business standpoint, it was a challenge. You know, you had the things that the government offered, the PPP loans and the other things. We got one of those, which helped with the staff and helped keep people employed while we made it through a tough time. And came out better at the end.
What about telemedicine? You know, that was one thing that really shaped everyone's world, was doing things virtually. And given that you said that you could see most, I won't say most, but you can see things just from looking at individuals, how has that changed your dynamic of how you work in this space?
It's been a big addition. Prior to that, I had no experience with telemedicine. But you had various companies that appeared that started to offer the service. So we had to learn on the fly. We started finding out how to use it. I could probably do it every day. We'd use 2 days a week when we do it. And we talk to people. And it's allowed people to be seen in a way that makes them more comfortable. Also what it does, it makes it easier to see people who are not geographically close. So I told you I have people that come visit me from Fayetteville and all sorts of places, western part of the state, and they're 2 and 3 hours away. And so I'm able to see people that way that allows them to have access in a way that they may not normally have. Dermatology is a good field, but it's a very limited field. You don't have a dermatologist in every community. You have an OBGYN, a family medicine doctor, internal medicine, pediatrics, you have those things, surgeons, but you would not necessarily have that. And it's important sometimes to have people who specialize in one thing. So by offering the telemedicine, we are able to project our help somewhere out a bit further than we normally would.
Dr. Jeffery Scales. Dr. Scales, give them the address one more time. Let them know where we're at.
Sure, we're at 6216 Fayetteville Road, Suite 102, Durham, North Carolina, 27713.
Both cities stand up. So now that we're talking about that, we got to bring it back because we have to talk about what's here in the background. So when we walked in this building, right, here in Durham, North Carolina, how did this become in the waiting room?
We've been in practice a long time, and I have had the opportunity to meet some really interesting people along the way. But one of the people I met happened to be one of my patients. I didn't realize it, and his name is Darius Quarles. Darius is a self-taught artist who's in the Durham area, and he has murals downtown. He's got stuff in the studio. There's an artist co-op downtown that's a place where all the artists work together and they put their own things. He's got things down there. And I've bought a number of pieces of work from him. And I wanted something that was going to represent the city and remind people that we're in North Carolina, because it's called the North Carolina Center for Dermatology, but also Durham, to highlight some of the great history that's here. This is a very historic city. Yeah. And sometimes I take it for granted, don't realize it, but I asked him just to come up with his own ideas of what he thought might represent Durham. And so he gave me a series of choices. And if you look at the picture, there's a lot of things. There's the people who started North Carolina Mutual Life, which was
Yeah.
one of the biggest black businesses ever. He has the Bull, he's got Duke, he's got the Lucky Strike area, he's got some tobacco leaves, and Black Wall Street. And I was just really taken aback at how beautiful it turned out to be. I get a lot of comments about this, and Darius is a really talented guy, and I really hope that he gets an opportunity to even do more. But he's, I think, represented the city very well. We get a lot of compliments from all sorts of people about what a great job he did.
Let me get this right, sir. So Darius
Quarles,
we need you on the Bro Code Show. Yeah, great artwork. Love it, man. Love it. Right here on the Bro Code Show with Dr. Jeffrey Scales. We'll be right back. The Bro Code TV show was created to amplify the voices of others and share courageous stories of community leaders, organizations, and businesses that are doing great things. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., you can catch Bro Troy, Bro Kirk, and Bro Smith for another courageous conversation. You can find those conversations on our YouTube channel at Bro Code TV Productions, and also our audio podcast channels, which are on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts at The Bro Code Show. Tap in to the Bro Code experience. We all we got.
Outside when she keeps me home.
We're back with Dr. Jeffrey Scales now. Dr. Scales, tell us more about, what'd you say, the AKA, the alter ego, Dr. Clearskin. Tell us more about that. How did you come up with it and the products that you're using to serve the culture?
So it's a great question. One of my staff members named me Dr. Clearskin. This is a really sweet woman who I work with. I used to call her my work daughter, but we work closely together. But she says, you did such a good job. You're Dr. Clearskin. I was like, that's a pretty good name. I think I'm going to take that. So along the way, I took it and I attached it to this product line that I came up with, which is designed to help people with shaving issues and issues that are particularly common in people of color. So I have a series of products that I have that were put together in an effort to help, for instance, with shaving. So many of us have problems with shaving, men and women, but if you were to go and look in, say, the National Institute of Health and ask what is the way you would approach this, they have what's called a consensus group where they get together and they all agree with what's going on. So I took some of those recommendations and put them in a product line. So we have something that deals with helping to remove the ingrown hairs. We have something that deals with putting some vitamin A cream on the skin. I have something that is a pre-shave oil, which is just lubricating the skin beforehand. And they're all, this particular product line is designed to help people who have shaving difficulties, as well as other things. We have a sunscreen in the product line and other things that we'll be introducing too along the way. But I feel like that's an underserved area where people need help but don't necessarily know where to go. The few things I have seen I think are reasonable, some of them, but they are not based upon the science of what would be most helpful that I've learned as a dermatologist. So I'm trying to introduce some of that to people and give them an opportunity to try to minimize some of this. I suffer from some of these same problems too.
Yeah, it was funny, we were talking earlier and I'll mess up a word, so help me, Doc. So I've had the pleasure of using the microderm abrasion. Did I get it right?
You got it.
I did get it right. The microderm abrasion, right? So I've had the pleasure of using that. And I have to say, the texture of it, and you can actually feel the deep cleansing, right? And then I also had the pleasure of using the lotion. Is it the advanced, help me out,
Advanced retinol lotion, yes.
The 1%.
Yes, sir.
I had the pleasure of coming right behind that. And I have to say, I felt glowing. I felt pretty sexy, Doc. So I'm curious. One thing I did, I have to ask you about when I was using the microderm abrasion, there wasn't a scent. Was that intentional? What was the why behind that, and how does that help people?
Sure. So if you were to look at statistics that show what is the biggest trouble people get into with problems with products, it's a million different products, everything. The number one issue people have trouble with and become allergic to is fragrance. And I love fragrance. We have some products with fragrance, But for people who are already dealing with skin that's damaged, I think it's better to keep some of those things to a minimum. I have no problems with people using something like this and then adding a fragrance afterwards, but in the midst of trying to help you with damaged skin, skin that's broken, ingrown hairs, maybe even infection, I think that fragrance is something that you might add on after you've addressed that first.
I love that. I love that. So we have the Dr. Clearskin product, is used for the culture, for us. It was made specifically for us. But outside of that, what is your practice offered to use to be more proactive, to make sure that even with those products, what are some other ways that we can love on our skin more effectively?
Sure. So some of the things that are in these products are designed for things that I would probably recommend for most people. So for instance, you talked about the cream that has the retinoid in it.
Yeah.
The word retinoid just means vitamin A. And vitamin A is one of these products that's been shown to be very helpful for anti-aging, repairing damaged skin, things like that, decreasing acne. So using something like that on a regular basis has the capacity to help with a number of issues. Secondly, I would say that for a lot of us, we did talk a little bit about sunscreen. And sunscreen, while it is something we sort of know about, it's not something we use very often. In fact, I saw some study I read recently that was looking at people of color, black people, and they were asking how many of them were using sunscreen on a regular basis when they needed to, and it's something around 20 or 30%, something really small.
That sounds high to me.
Yes, that's even more than what you know. And so I say all that because we certainly can get skin cancer. I have had, seen entirely too many people have it, and it's important that we protect our skin like anyone else can. So that's in the product line, again, to try to bring some awareness to the importance of protecting our skin as we are going through life like everyone else.
Man, look, we are three bald-headed black men with big beards, right? We bringing sexy back, but we expose ourselves, But I'm curious, as black men that try to take care of ourselves in several different ways, how does that, or does it even affect us even more, and how can we be proactive?
Sure. So I think the shaving thing is a major thing. If you were to say, what's the number one reason that men come to see me, that's probably number one, because people develop difficulties with shaving, which can lead to infection, which can lead to scarring. So sometimes you'll see someone and they'll have some, I can remember a couple of gentlemen came to see me, they are just scarred up all over here. They're scarred in the back of their head. I can remember a man in particular that came to see me early in my practice, and he had developed keloids. Keloids are scars that grow too big. They're not supposed to be that big, but they grow too big. But literally out of the back of his head, it looked like a football was growing out of the back of his head.
Wow.
It was just a difficult problem, and was infected all the time. It had a bad smell. He was miserable. And what the goal of some of these products is for is to try to keep those types of things to a minimum. If you don't have as much shaving difficulty, you're less likely to scar. You're less likely to have, say, keloids. So there are a number of things to think about like that. We talked about skin cancer. We talked about the importance of just moisturization. So we joke around and call people ashy and things like that. That's just not having enough moisture in your skin at the time. So you need some gentle things,
some more
nice
than
things,
others.
some more than others, right? And so we have some nice moisturizers in our line, and there's some tremendous choices out there in the world. Making sure we're moisturized. The more moisture you have, the healthier your skin is, the less likely it is to itch. The less likely it is to itch, the less likely you are to scratch and make problems that can lead to scarring.
The Dr. Clearskin product, where can people find it, and how can they get in touch with you?
Sure, we have a website which we sell directly to people. It's called Get Dr. Clearskin. And you can go online and you can purchase some of these products, and we'll be adding some new things as time goes on. We're going to be bringing out a series of products that's going to be designed to help people, ladies with shaving, with the legs and the bikini area. So we are on the move with these types of things, but yes, look for Get Dr. Clearskin.
I love it. And we're going to talk more, but before we end on that, there's a couple other subjects that we want to hit on. Earlier you talked about skin cancer, and you've had to diagnose people in doing that. So we want to talk about that a little bit more. What you got, Broker?
When you think about having the level of compassion or empathy for a person and having to deliver that kind of information, I want to go a little bit further back, though. Even going through medical school, stressful.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You got to practice. You got a pretty decent-sized family, and you're also a black man. And so all of these things lead to stress.
Yeah.
And we grew up in a way where mental health wasn't a conversation that we had. We didn't. I didn't.
Yeah.
But right now it is a big conversation. How does that lead or lend in your practice? Like, what do you do to not be stressed or to get weight? Do you have a therapist, or what kind of things do you use?
You really touched an important topic right there. I think I'll take it from a couple different ways. You talked about compassion and having to deal with people. Mm-hmm. There are times in which I have to call people, or I have to talk to people, mm-hmm. and tell them things that are not going to be very good for them. And learning how to be able to speak to people in a compassionate way that's genuine. It really, I like my patients, and most doctors do. They really like the patients they work with. But to sit and tell someone they have a terminal illness, or to tell someone that they have, their child may have some terminal illness, mm-hmm. or some people have some condition that may be there for life.
Yeah.
I remember one patient in particular who was 18. He came to see me, and he had something in the back of his head. I removed it. We sent it to the lab. It turned out it was stage 3 melanoma, which means his prognosis, his chance of living a full life are very limited. It's not impossible, but they're limited. And having to be able to sit and have those types of conversations really does weigh a lot. I'm married to a woman who's a physician as well. Talking to people sometimes does bring a certain amount of stress and a certain amount of exhaustion that comes with that. But that's part of the job, and that's part of the reason I went into it, is that I want to help people along with some of this journey. I remember my father died of prostate cancer about 3 years ago. And I remember when I spoke to his wife after he had died. She said one of the worst things that happened was when he got the diagnosis, it was just very matter of fact, and it was really said to him in almost a cruel way. He'd say, you're going to make it maybe 6 months. Might as well get your stuff together and just, go on. And just having been on that side of the equation, having been diagnosed with cancer before and gotten over it myself, I realized how, while it may not seem as important at the moment, you need to be able to say things to people and say them in a compassionate manner. You change people's lives. I remember I called a lady to tell her she had skin cancer, and she had to stop the car. She's driving the highway. She got to pull the car over to the side just because I told her something like that. And so yes, there does bring a certain amount of weight that comes with that. But that's something I signed up for, and that's something I wanted to do. And I felt like, we talked about having a practice that's open to everything. I think there needs to be a place for everyone. There needs to be a place where people come and people will genuinely care for them. And you're prepared to do those extra things. You're prepared to take that extra time. You're prepared to have those conversations. So you asked me about what I do for stress. I like to run. I ran right before I came here with you guys. I like to run. I like to go on vacation. I was just in Jamaica a few months ago. Had time in my life.
Oh, he had to cross the leg on that.
That was a lot of fun. My wife and I, we went down there. We had a really good time. I play golf.
Yeah, okay.
I lift weights. I like spectator sports. I love the NBA and NFL. I do have a therapist. I think it's important for all of us to consider that. That's something that I didn't have growing up. I think almost every black family probably has some mental health. We have some mental health issues in my family, for sure. Yeah. And you normalize a lot of things that are not normal. But we did not think of it as something that you would address. Have a therapist do something like that. That was seen almost as a weakness. But I've had a therapist probably 15 or 20 years. It is the best thing I've ever done. I've introduced it to my children. I at least mentioned it. And one of my children has taken up and has made a big difference in her life. So I think that I mentioned to my sister and her family, and they've started doing it, and they just love it. It has made all the difference in the world. You need someone you can talk to about things that are important to you. Have there been some difficult days? Absolutely. Have there been some days where, you talk to someone and you go home and it weighs on you. It weighs on you that that person is in that particular place. They are now if you have an important issue, for instance, I told you I got diagnosed with cancer a few years ago. There's before the cancer and there's after the cancer. That becomes like a dividing line. And your world perspective changes completely once something big. And it doesn't have to be cancer. It could be a heart attack. It could be a whole lot of things, an accident. It's important to be able to have people help you through that transition. Your thinking is not always clear. The way you respond is not always clear. The way you manage your issues with other people, how you get along with people. I remember when I first had my diagnosis, it was tough. I had to really think about it. I ended up with the same kind of cancer my father had, and he had just died a couple years ago. Now, I fortunately caught it early, and I'm fine, but it made my life very different. My world perspective has changed a lot. I go on vacation more now. I play more golf. I take more time off. You know, I tell them I'm 61 years old. I hope to live another 30, 40 years. But yeah, I'm gonna make sure that's 30, 40. Whatever I can do, I'm gonna have a good time at it and enjoy my life. So yes, at a very earlier part in life, I did spend a lot of time driven, you know, making sure things go well, running into practice, taking care of people. And there was a time I probably needed to take a little bit more time and relax and hang out.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, and this wasn't going to be my last question, you know, when you were overseas, did you have any comparisons to important figures? You kind of resemble a pretty important figure in American politics, but did you have any run-ins where people thought of you as President Obama?
I think I had someone in the airport that pointed it out to me as like, oh, you know, you look a lot like Obama. I was in Jamaica, in Montego Bay, and they were like, yeah, you know, look something like Obama. It's like, yeah, I appreciate that. I consider that a real compliment. That's, you know, it's great to look like your parents, and it's not so bad to look like Obama either. I think that's a pretty good thing to say. So I take that as a compliment. I had a chance to meet him just briefly one time. I have a picture of myself with my wife and I, and that's, you know, a great picture. I love that picture.
Yeah, that is.
Well, unless you have anything that you want to add to that, I did want to talk briefly just in terms of just the legacy that you're providing to your children through the thought and practice of ownership.
Yeah.
You've been here for a good while, and you own this building and some others that you shared with us. Talk to us about why that is important.
When I was growing up, I talk about my parents, I talk about my grandparents. One of the things my mother used to always do was, you know, my mother was a lovely woman, but she was intense. So she said to me, I remember my grandfather drove a cement truck, and and I said, man, I want to drive a cement truck. That thing seemed big and powerful. I said, when I grow up, I'm going to drive a cement truck. She says, no. What you want to do is you want to own a fleet of trucks, and you can drive any one of them you want whenever you feel like. And the idea was presenting the idea that you have a control over your future. And I always took that to mind, that in a space like this, I can do the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
So that extra time that I need to be able to talk to someone, I don't have to answer to someone that's corporate about that. If I see a lot of Medicaid patients, a lot of poor people. We have a fair number of Hispanic people, people who are the working poor, and people who are on government services like Medicare and Medicaid. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm trained as a physician to take care of people regardless of the income, and that is important to me. So if I'm in a more corporate environment, I can't have that kind of influence. People will ask me, why are you seeing these people? And that's not how I'm going to practice medicine. So whatever it took for me to make sure I could do it that way, that's fine. We do other things that are, you know, a bit more upscale, like our cosmetic offerings, but that was important. The other thing, like you said, is I own the space I'm in, and I own the space next door. And I think it's important that the effort I put in to paying my rent and doing these other things builds a legacy that I can leave for my children. I think my children at the end will have an inheritance that's a bit bigger than what we received, although I thought I got a really good inheritance in terms of my life values. I will have other things financially I can offer them. I've been able to put all three of them through expensive schools, three private schools, like Spelman and Morehouse and Boston University. And so I've been able to pay for them all, my wife and I, and not just me, but my wife together. And that's giving someone a head start where they'd have no student loans when they start. I tried to explain to them, I said, you don't realize how important that is. That's a big deal.
Yes.
I said, that is a big deal. I said, you're getting all this in expensive schools. And so that was something that I was able to do. And I've tried to teach them lessons about the importance of owning things and having things work for you. One day, when I pass on, this building will be for them. And if they are what I consider wise, they'll hold on to this building, and they will lease this building, and that income is something that can help them and their children generation after generation after generation. So I've tried to accumulate some things that I hope they'll be able to use for the future. And my daughter, for instance, I give a perfect example. My daughter is 21, and she's a smart girl. She's going into medicine. She's just really smart. Great young woman. And I told her, I said, part of what I'm trying to teach you is, one, how to invest. So we introduced her to some concepts. She's got a little portfolio she's put together. She's done really well. You know, she's done really well. She has her money invested in some things. She's probably, she's done really well. She's in the 5 figures. And then I also told her that you want to have a choice about what happens with you. So if you're working a bad job and the boss is mistreating you, you don't have to stay on the job because you need the money. you got money put aside that gives you the opportunity to walk away. If some man's sexually harassing you, or you don't want to be downsized or something, you're ready. That takes a certain amount of stress off the table. So many of us, particularly people of color, have been held back for so long with things like lending and where you can live and all these sorts of things. My feeling was the moment that door opened and we had some opportunity, I'm running through there and grabbing everything I can legally and going to make sure that we have an opportunity to, I have an opportunity to teach my kids if they'll listen, and then an opportunity to leave something for my children and my grandchildren that make their lives a little bit easier. I'm 2 generations from sharecropping, literally 2 generations from sharecropping. So to me, I think those people looking back there, if they ever had the opportunity to look ahead and say, what do they want? They would want us to take the hard work they did and build upon that. And I consider myself doing that with a lot of things I do. I donate to, proceeds, we go to Morehouse College, to Children's Hospital, all sorts of things. My goal is to take some of what I get and to spread it around to things that are really important.
Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Meaty stuff, too.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Man, did you have another one?
No.
Any follow-ups?
No, I'm
sure.
Other than I'm going to need some of those products. I have a little irritable ass syndrome, and so I'm going to need as much as you can provide.
There's something on that table for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. I love it. So we're here with Dr. Jeffery Scales. We talked about a lot, sir, but we have a couple more segments, but we'll talk about that when we come back, right here on the Bro Code Show. Tonight's show is sponsored by the North Carolina Center of Dermatology. Provides medical dermatological services to residents in North Carolina, especially in Durham, Bull City Stand Up, and all surrounding areas in the Triangle. If you are looking for cosmetic dermatological services, don't trust just any provider. Dr. Jeffery Scales and the team have the expertise to provide cosmetic dermatological services.
Seek the truth. If you want to bear fruit, then it needs to abide in you. If you seek transformation, it happens in solitude. Since I never had a shot, God threw me the alley-oop. I believe I can fly. Let me mingle with the angels. Heaven's in my peripheral. I see it from an angle.
We're back with Dr. Jeffery Scales. Now, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Now, we talked about this beautiful painting here behind us, right here in Bull City, right, Durham, North Carolina. But we did a little research. Now, you've already shared, I know, you ain't got to shift in your seat, sir. It's okay.
Especially if you just got back from Jamaica. He doesn't know what those are.
Hold on.
Don't show all the pictures.
Yeah. These pictures you've shared with the world, sir, but we would love to hear your thoughts about who's in the picture, what were you doing, and hey, why did you share with the world? We'll start with this one here.
Sure. So that's a picture of one of our displays where we put our products and we change it based on seasonal things that happen. That young woman's name is Bianca Melendez, and she works with me primarily, and we work together. We're a great team. And she's highlighting some of the things that we try to do. We try to do special things. Around Valentine's Day, we give out things to the patients. We have certain patient appreciation days. We give flowers out at different times and sorts of things. So we try to make sure that we let the patients know that we are interested in them as people as well.
Doc, Bianca's at the front.
Bianca works with me in the back. She's the nurse who works with me most directly. All of them do, but she probably spends more time with me than anywhere else.
Awesome. What about this one?
That's me in Montego Bay, Jamaica. Yeah. And I am on vacation in a lot of less than professional looking clothes there. I'm hanging out. I am in my zone at that point. Got my sunglasses on, I'm chilling. And we are enjoying an all-inclusive resort it's my wife and I, we were with a couple who I went to college with. My friend, who's a physician, all 4 of us are physicians, and he's a family medicine physician and ER doctor, and we were playing some golf and hanging out and eating good food and enjoying our life. I like Jamaica. That is a very nice country. I
have to ask, we done hit it on a couple times. I'm not going to graze over this. So you are running. What's on your Spotify playlist?
So do you want to really know what's on my
Spotify? Look, man, we keep it real on the Bro Code.
Okay, because you'd be like, that dude can't be listening to me.
No way.
I just called my sister,
this is gonna be good.
My daughter. I was like, hey, let me tell you my favorite song. So there's one called I Really by the Hot Boy. Okay. There is Knife Talk by Drake.
Okay.
I like that one.
Yeah.
And there's SUV with Jack Harlow. I like
Yeah,
those are my three favorites.
You know
right
Jack
now,
Harlow.
so-
He knows about Jack.
I like-
Okay.
those are my three favorites.
First
So,
class, baby.
that's sometimes you're down, you turn that music on, you're like, man, you're ready to take the world on. So I just love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that upbeat
that's
kind of
why he
message.
said, "Hey, what's poppin'?" Right, that's where he got it from. Yeah, all right. I love it. I had to ask. I did. And then this last one, man. How about this one here?
Sure. So this is Boss's Day, and the staff really treats me so nice. I have a great staff. I have some ladies I work with. I'm the only man in the office, but there's 10 other ladies, and they treat me so well. They look after me, and on Boss's Day, they decided to give me some things. So in those bags are some gifts. I have some golf shoes, some Nike golf shoes. I got some golf balls. I had some gift certificates and things that I use. And so I am there feeling very appreciative of the fact that they think enough of me to give me something on Boss's Day. And I try to be a good boss for them. I hope they enjoy it. I really enjoy them a lot. We do a lot of fun things together.
I had two last questions. I have to ask this. So, avid golfer, you've said this several times.
Yes.
Best course you've been to from wherever.
I'd say my favorite course most recently was I was in Montego Bay at a place called Cinnamon Hill. And I was playing with my friend Paul. And it's a course that you start off sort of in some basic things, but you go down to the ocean and you're hitting the ball next to the most beautiful blue ocean and all this beautiful green. And then as you go through the 18 holes, you're at the top of a mountain. And my favorite hole was a place where you drive the ball and it probably drops down about 3 stories, and it's just this beautiful lush area. And there was a waterfall there. They had used a waterfall in one of the James Bond movies, I think Moonraker. And so we're out here, we got a guy that's helping the caddy. I'm in my world. I'm just enjoying, just happy to be alive, enjoying it. And that was my favorite course to go to because it was just so beautiful.
Cinnamon Hill. Remember that, fellas?
I'm going.
Cinnamon Hill.
You also got to come out to Drive Shack with us on second Saturday.
You let me know. Okay, you let me know. I'll be there.
We're
I
there.
like Drive Shack.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drive Shack.
And last
I'll go out
one-
and hang out with you guys. Sure, I'd love to.
Man,
You guys are fun. You know, I could
I
hang out with
appreciate
you
it. It's
anytime.
real
Yeah,
cool,
no,
man.
we do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'd love to
Love
hang
to.
out with you, Doc.
Yeah.
Obama-esque too? Yeah. I'm like, yeah, put some shades on you? Yeah.
I
we
got some
good.
shades in the car.
Yeah.
So I'll bring my shades. We can go to Drive Shack and hang out. That would be a lot of fun.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Last but not least, sir, me and my wife will be 10 years married this July. And, you've raised a family, you've been in marriage. I'm like, if you could drop 2 gems for all the married folk out there, give me what you got.
All right, so I've been married. It'll be 35 years next month. So I'm going to go away. We're going to Bermuda to celebrate 35 years. But here's my advice. The first thing I would learn, I wish I had learned earlier, is that it's not worth arguing about 99% of the stuff you're arguing about. You start off with this stuff like, hey, no, I don't want the table there. Or yes, this is the color I want for the thing. Forget that stuff. Say yes to your wife all the time. Give her the things that she wants. She doesn't ask a whole lot. She probably asks more than you maybe start off with. But there's a lot of minor stuff that just leads to conflict that just isn't worth it. I wish I had learned that earlier. There are things I've said and things I've done along the way that I wish I could take back. I'm a man learning how to be. You're so busy like, I'm a man. I'm gonna tell you. Forget all that stuff. Just take care of your wife and be very nice to her. And the second thing is that make sure you take some time for yourself alone. It's nice to be the couple, you guys together, but there's a time you need to hang with your guys and your boys. I have some guys we hang out with. We have a birthday gathering thing we do every couple months. We're out eating and drinking and hanging out and playing golf and whatever. And then I come back home and that makes me better for my family and makes me better for my wife. So those things are important. In the beginning, it's just always you want to be a couple and always together. That's part of you, but there was a part of you that was alive before you met this person.
That's right.
And that's what they liked. And when you let that disappear, you're really changing yourself. So the last probably 15 years, I've gotten really good at making sure I get out there and I enjoy myself. My wife likes it. She thinks I'm better off. I come back, I'm happy, hanging out with the guys. I get to be the real me.
I love it, Doc. I love it, man. I love it. How long did it take you to figure out the former, meaning the every battle's not one you need to fight?
I've been married 35 years. It probably took me 20 to figure it out. I wish I learned it sooner.
I thought maybe I was a slow learner.
No,
I was like,
man.
I still ain't figured it out, right?
No, I learned it. It's funny because what you end up doing is you hear other people. I talked to some other guys, and we're all married.
Yeah.
And you hear them who have been married a little bit longer give you a little advice, and you learn to just whatever, just be gentle with your wife, just agree with her all the most 99% of the time. If she says let's go jump off a cliff, do something like that.
Yeah.
But if she says let's go out for no, sure dear, let's go out to dinner. Yeah, my wife is redoing the house now, and she has all these choices about tiles and bathroom and this kind. She says, you like this? I'm like, yeah, I agree to everything she says. Is that great? Yeah, that's great. Which one's great? Whichever one you pick is great.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go with that.
Yeah.
She's like, you have an opinion? You have good taste.
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy with anything you choose.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of silly in the beginning. It means everything. So that when you need her, she's going to be there for you.
So the code he's dropping is you could either be right or you could be happy.
Both of them. Right?
Yeah, you both, right?
That's
be
right.
happy and right. There's no gray area on the happy and right. Ah, man.
That's so true.
I love it, sir. I love it. So we always talk about giving a person their flowers while they're still here. And, what makes us different than everybody else, other than the fact that we're, you had a good time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
other than
talking
we're
to you
awesome
guys.
brothers, right?
Flipping the script.
Oh, yeah, we do
You
got
have
to do
to jump
something
into that
else.
first,
Yeah, let's flip the script there. Let's back up.
Yeah.
All right, so we've asked you a whole lot of questions, sir, and I'm assuming you had a good time so far.
This has been fun. I could do this every day.
Awesome. Well, we have a segment called Flip the Script. Now, on this segment, now you get to become the host, and you can ask us anything you like, whether that be individually or collectively.
Sure. So, you three are successful men. I look at what you're doing here. This is very successful and very positive and great. Tell me what was some of the steps that got you to the point that you felt like you wanted to be involved in media? Individually. You all have probably come from different backgrounds. I'm just curious how you got to this particular point. Because this is a great thing. I wish a lot of more of us would do this. There's so many topics we need to deal with in our community, but this is such a nice thing.
So I'll start with being a leader in the workplace and having to learn that skill of public speaking. So that was my first jump. Once I got great at that, the only place you can go to scale is media. So social media started coming out, and it was just, let me start playing with it. And I connected, you said this earlier, the scale, the range changes. I can talk to somebody in California now. I couldn't do that before. That's my answer.
For me, it's still a challenge. I'm a bit of an introvert, extrovert. And so, but I enjoy having conversations and learning new things about people, and there are few mediums to where I can have conversations like this and spread the work that people are doing across not just the Raleigh-Durham area, but across the globe as this. And so we're learning day by day, getting into the meat of some pretty cool conversations, and it's a journey, to say the least.
Yeah. For me, it was the voice. The service-driven work was already happening. Then we got into good old COVID, and everybody was going virtual. Everything was streaming, and the really COVID really got it even more because I already hadn't had cable in a long time. Everything that I was doing was being streaming services. Everything that I need was at my fingertips, and I was okay with that. So there was a lot of people that were in that space, and now here we are. Now everyone is going to those mediums to get their news or to get their information or really just to be in tune and hear conversations. So we were like, hey, why not us?
Can I ask another one?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is a bit more personal. So the three of you have grown up as black men in America. Tell me some of the great highlights you've had as being a black man in America, and tell me some of your struggles that you've had growing up as a black man in America.
Man, he's hit some doozies.
Highlights and struggles.
Highlights and struggles. Go ahead. Yeah,
I'll start with struggle, and then we'll come back on the highlights. The struggle was always knowing that I was different from what everybody told me I had to be, but not being able to be that. I wasn't strong enough. I didn't grow up with my father in my home, so that was always something. I knew I was missing something, but when I say that, I just mean like sometimes culture is good and sometimes it's bad. So there's parts of it that you have to take away. But growing up where I grew up, you want to fit in. And I think fitting in is some of the most dangerous things that we can do in our culture. And so that's one of the struggles that I would speak to.
For me, it would be representing the culture in the room, so to speak. As you go further and further in life and kind of distance yourself from some individuals, you find yourself in positions where you're the only leader of color in a room, and having to embrace that, despite the optics of what may feel as if people are trying to keep you out of that room, is a struggle that I'm kind of glad I got to struggle with it, because there are plenty of individuals who have never had the opportunity to be in that room, and so I'm able to bring others along behind me, make sure that my environment is diverse and inclusive through hiring practice and all sorts of things. But that's a constant struggle, but it's a struggle that benefits me in the long term.
Value, yeah, self-worth, yeah. Making decisions because not really recognizing who you are. Like, I had a lot of positives around me, but I gravitated towards silly for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it speaks to that validation piece that we talked about, and really being comfortable in your own skin. And that really didn't happen until I started to see feedback as a gift rather than a chink in my armor, so I think that's something anyone can struggle with, but as a black male, it was yet another tick mark, or outside of me already being a black male. So yeah, I would say the validation piece.
Can I answer one more, or do you want to continue?
Oh, we didn't finish the
yeah, please.
Oh, go ahead. That was a struggle.
What's the highlight?
Highlight?
I have to lend to my kids. It's such a privilege. As it's a joy, but it's a joy, but it's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And I have 4, so you have to parent them differently if you want to do it, in my opinion, right. You have to parent each one of them differently. And so I didn't understand that at first. That's something that I learned later. I'm actually doing a lot of reparenting as they're in their 20s to say, hey, Dad didn't have it right here. Let's rebuild in this area. I was 19-year-old. I had my first son. So you learn those things on the way, but I'm definitely reparenting now as I go on my journey to get better. I said, you were wrong here, here, and here. Be a man and go back and let them know that.
How about you?
For me, it would be the experience of being able to travel globally and see some things that my peers may not have had the chance to see, and to get into those airplanes and touch ground on those spots. I had to be comfortable, kind of going back to the last answer, being the only black guy in the crew, and experiencing life the way that I wanted to experience it.
Living in my purpose, I think that's one of the whys. Everything I'm doing now, I was equipped because of the past. I'm able to do it because of that. So whether it was good, bad, ugly, right, wrong, indifferent, struggle, challenge, or victories, I'm thankful that I've found and I'm able to live in my why. And this is just a piece of it, so that would be my highlight. Yeah.
Can I ask one more? I don't know if we have enough time. Sure. So tell me the 2 most influential people that you've had in your life to date.
His questions are good.
I spend a lot of time talking to people. I talk to, probably in a month, I talk to 500, 800 different people. So I get a chance to hear interesting things.
All right, so I always take more. So my mom and my grandma. But I'm going to take my mom out because that's a gimme. Like I stand on her shoulders every day. My grandma was just wise. She loved everyone. She taught me to really serve the community. Didn't realize it then, definitely realize it now. And then the third person, I haven't met them yet. I'm in a space where I understand I don't know enough. And so I go out into the world with an open heart and open mind that I haven't met that person yet. And I never will. So that keeps me still meeting people in different spaces. So.
I was hoping you'd take a little more time.
It's not the most important, but maybe people who have had an influence. And it can be family, can be someone else.
My mom would be one, for reasons that I don't have enough time to explain now. Another one would be, as a matter of fact, we ran into him doing an interview on Johnny Pizza, and he doesn't know this, but Ken Carpenter.
He walked on the set.
Yeah, well, he was my manager, one of my managers at the company I work for, and as I was trying to get into management, he was a sponsor, not just an advocate and a manager, but he was a sponsor for me, and it enabled me to get the role and be in the room, and I'll be forever appreciative for him allowing me, I won't say allowing me, but giving me that opportunity to not only manage the team that he previously was on, but get my my managing chops going in other spaces. So that was big.
Yeah, my grandfather lived to be 101. He died last year in July. He played a huge influence in growing up. He was a VP at Kmart when Kmart was big, and he went to work in a suit and tie every day. I took that for granted because now in the work that I do, most of the children that I serve don't have that reflection. You know, maybe not even a piece of that. So yeah, very big influence. At 10, that meant nothing. Right, because he woke me up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go get haircuts every other Saturday because he had to be first in line. But again, indirectly, he was teaching me work ethic and really have a sense of purpose towards doing things and being intentional. Right. So, second person, man, I don't know. That's a tough one. Man, I'd have to say. Coach Ferguson. I can't remember his first name. What was Coach Ferguson's first name? Anyway, I just moved from Jersey to Atlanta, to Decatur, and at the time they may still do this, but high school started in 8th grade. So you were a sub freshman, right? And I had never. This was new, so here it is. I'm new. And I'm being, as a quote-unquote middle grader, thrown into a high school, and it was uncomfortable, you know, and that was huge, you know, so it wasn't like you could walk into a room and people didn't know you were there. So yeah, he helped me through that. He did, you know, he was, he could bust a walnut in his biceps. He was huge. He was huge, man. He was crushing on my mom's too. I ain't gonna tell nobody, but anyway, nonetheless, man, I remember that, and you know, I don't know about huge influence. When we talk about pivotal moments and stages in life, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
I appreciate you let me do this part. I mean, I could go on all night. I'm sure you definitely have other things to do. But there's so much to learn from other people. I thought you said something that if you don't mind me echoing, but you said about learning from other people. You know, when I was young, one of the things I thought I knew everything. You know, I knew everything. Man, I'm so smart. At 21, I'm like, man, I know everything. I don't know why anyone else doesn't come to me for the answers. And you realize as you age that that's not the case. And then you realize and I've learned, someone taught me one time that you can learn something from everyone you meet. Yes. And so I think I look at every person that comes into my life one way or another, be it someone out on the street or someone that they have something to teach me. And there's a humility I need to have. I'd like to know everything. I'm not going to know everything, but I'm going to sort of try to know as much as I can. So I thought that was a really good point. But these are really good conversations. Yeah. I hope you guys have me back again someday. I would love to pick this up somewhere.
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully you'll have us out to the golf course. We can learn from you. We can talk.
I'm not that good. All right.
We can have facials.
I get on the course.
We could get facials.
Yeah, come on in for some facials. We have a new lady, and she's fantastic. And you know, you guys want to comp facial? Sure. You just let me know when you want to come. I'll set it up. Sure.
Sounds good.
It'll be the best facial.
Sounds like a rehab show.
That's another show.
Yeah. So we do we'll talk about it. We got something we want to do for you.
Okay.
So we always give our guests one of these $2 bills. Now we bought these $2 bills. We got the whole United States. There's no more. You can't find them anywhere. The bro code has them.
That's because you all have them.
We have them. Two things that stood out to me. You said that makes this really important. Your staff buys you gifts.
Yes.
Every staff doesn't buy their boss gifts. Second thing you said was your clients, the care you put towards your clients, and how you said you don't want to do what corporate does, which is hurting clients in and out the door for numbers. And so you're putting out there, hey, people matter. So this bill we write on here, you matter, because that's what you're making everybody probably comes in contact with you feel. Yeah. Your word was dedicated. You don't get to be where you're at without being dedicated. You could be smart, you could be talented, you got to be dedicated. On the back, the Bro Code Show has signed this for you, the whole team. Even our video guy over there, the whole team signed this, and we want you to have it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to put this in my office. I keep a number of things that are inspirational, and this is going to go right there with that. And because it tells me a lot about the opportunity to exchange things with you guys. I learned you know, you were asking me questions, but I learned a lot about the three of you, and that meant a lot to me. So this means a lot to me. So I will have this next time you come. It'll be there. And you can ask me about it. I'll be sitting there with, you know, right next to my pictures my little trips I take, and that matters a lot. So I appreciate it.
I love it. And just like that $2 bill, you're rare and unique.
Yeah, we don't see $2 bills anymore. I don't think people use them that much when they were using them. I think I may have seen a few, but they're great.
Indeed.
They're great.
Indeed. Well, we always end the show the same way, Josh, on a positive note, and tonight's no different. So tonight's quote says, "Your skin is 90% of your selfie." It's your boy, Bro Troy,
Bro Smith, and Bro Kirk,
and we are the
Bro Code.
Yes, sir. So we got to take a picture of you real quick.
Sure, please.
So you
can I have a? Yeah, I'm gonna let you take a picture. Maybe you can send it to me, or I have my phone. You can take
we want you to sit right here because we got to get you in front of this beautiful.
Yes, sir.
So $2 bill. Let me explain that.
I be spreading the message on the corner where the love be. And Rock said, be careful when the world start to love me. I've been getting recognition. A lot of starting to work.
For tomorrow, dream comes today. Or could you walk on water if you don't stand on faith? It's like I'm going through circles. I'm in the same old place. I see you closing the curtains, but I got something to say. I got something to say. GTD, stand up. I mean, I just don't get it. As if they can't see you making the way. City lights, what up? He's preparing the way. City lights, what up? How could you live for tomorrow if you ain't promised today?
The Bro Code TV show was created to amplify the voices of others and share courageous stories of community leaders, organizations, and businesses that are doing great things. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., you can catch Bro Troy, Bro Kirk, and Bro Smith for another courageous conversation. You can find those conversations on our YouTube channel at Bro Code TV Productions, and also our audio podcast channels, which are on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts at The Bro Code Show. Tap in to the Bro Code experience. We all we got. We always say that hope plus options equals success. When there's a lack of hope, oftentimes gravitate towards unfavorable decisions. When we can provide hope plus options, our children will ultimately be better. Through love, consistency, opportunity, and exposure, that's how we really touch these kids. That's how we empower them. That's how we inspire them. And that's how we encourage them. And that's what we do well here at Y4C.